Welcome back to another episode of Casa De Confidence. I am incredibly grateful for our next guest because perfect timing to be speaking to the individual that is joining us today, my friend. Life after 50 definitely has so many different potential for opportunities. I am turning 55 on Saturday. And whenever you're listening to this, you're going to know that I love celebrating my birthday. But one of the things that I love more is really finding communities and finding resources and support in women who are creating space to really help women like me and you perhaps realign our goals and create a second act for ourselves. I've done it. You can do it. Our next guest knows how to help and support individuals doing it. My guest is Jacqueline Robinson, and she is coming to us from Second Act Inspirations. And so, welcome to the show, Jacqueline. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
Well, I have to say, great timing on us talking today. You heard me say I'm having a big birthday, and I'm really starting to reminisce again when I turned 50 5 years ago, in how I had the opportunity to begin a second act for myself. I didn't envision that that's what I was going to be doing, but I did, and I went down this path. But I'm curious, what is second act inspiration? And tell me a little bit more about what led you here.
Second Act Inspiration is really my way of inspiring and supporting women over 50. It's more than just creating your second act. It's about creating your second act lifestyle. And
Mm,
for me, you said 50, and I remember you and I chatting about, you're creating your second act in terms of doing the podcast. For me, my second act actually began when I was 55 and I was downsized from my former company after being there, oh my God, over like 27 years.
wow.
And I had the opportunity to either step down, I was a manager, take a lower position, or because I was turning 55 in about 3 months, I was eligible to be bridged towards retirement.
Okay.
So after a few days of thinking, I said, you know what, I'm going to step out on faith. Because at that point, at 55, I was really just counting my time until I was
Yeah.
62 and another 7 years when in my mind, I planned on I was going to retire. So for me, it was stepping out on faith and just saying to myself, there's still more to my life. My
Mm,
corporate life was not just who I am or who I was, but it was my time to really discover more about myself, more about the possibilities of me beyond just the corporate person and the talents and skills, but I really wanted to find me
mm,
and what I
I hear you.
enjoy doing.
Yeah.
So that led me to a whole bunch of things that eventually got me to where I am today.
Well, I hear you say, leading to me finding out, about me, what I am, and I think often that, especially all of us who have been in a corporate career for so long,
Right,
and we've had the title after our name,
right,
and
right.
that we have been immersed in this world. I I know that I was excited at the possibility of what was coming next for me in some ways, but I also had this feeling that who am I and how am I going to introduce myself? What is my identity? And
Absolutely.
as women, we tend to latch on, create identity based on being a mom, being a wife, a sister, a daughter, a friend, a corporate executive. And sometimes we forget that we are more than just a fill in the blank.
Absolutely. And that was really what it was about, I think, for me. my kids, my daughter, as a matter of fact, she was going to be graduating in a couple of months from college. My son was already, in graduate school. So they
Mhm.
were forming their lives. They were becoming the young adults that, my husband and I had, hoped they would become. So it
Mhm.
was just me and my husband, we're empty nesters. And as I said, I had done, as you said, the mom, the daughter, the husband, I mean,
Mhm.
I'm sorry, the wife. Who was I? What were
Yeah.
the things in my life now that I might have put on a shelf because I said it's not the right time, or just
Mhm.
wanted to discover about myself?
Wow.
And and that, and it was little things that led me to who I am today. But I have to tell you, it was not easy. It was not easy.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember those early days of being downsized and just sitting, in a chair in my office at home
Mm.
and just feeling totally lost.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I was downsized, I had opportunity to meet other people in the company who were also downsized, and some of them knew exactly what they wanted to do. Well, I
Mhm.
didn't. I had no clue. I
Wow.
just knew that there was something else out there for me, and I wanted to find out what it was. And initially, because again, you're downsized, you're not
Yeah.
retired, the bills don't go away. I said, what can I do right this minute? And initially for me, I said, I just want to look at all the skills that I have, particularly from corporate environment, that I enjoyed using. If
Mm.
I didn't enjoy using it, that was not going to be part of what I was
That's so
doing.
good.
So for me,
Yeah.
because my background was sales, I actually did about a year or so as an independent business consultant for one of my husband's clients.
Mhm.
And that taught me because I did something that I was helping doing formulate a business I had no clue about. It was creating an event center. Now, my background is pharmaceutical sales.
Okay.
What do I know? Oh, it taught me something very, very valuable, to step out.
Mhm.
And I realized that when I was in a position where I needed to know something, either people came my way or I found it through research or whatever. So
Yeah.
that gave me the confidence to say, you don't have to know. You're just using what you do know you have, your skills, and
Mm.
letting those take you to your next level, to the
Yeah.
next journey on your path. So for
Yeah.
me, that was huge. That was a valuable lesson to say, okay, you don't always need to know because somebody or somewhere will come along to help you know.
Yeah. We have such a hard time accepting, number one, that we don't have to do it all. Number
Mhm.
two, that and this is so true specifically for women, even in that corporate environment. We think we are not capable and that we cannot learn it along the way or find the resource along the
Right,
way, that we
right.
have to have the skill now.
Exactly, exactly.
And we need to rewrite that script, Jacqueline.
Absolutely, because and the thing is, the beauty of it is that my journey has led me to do things that I never thought I would be doing.
Hmm.
I never thought that initially I started out doing along with my friend interior design because that was my love. As a matter of fact, my passion. And that's how I
Mm.
met my friend because I was taking classes while I was still working because I just needed something to enjoy, to do that I enjoy doing because work was so stressful. But that led me to understand that I love doing things that were creative. It was a
Mm.
whole different side of my brain.
Yeah, because that's not what you were using in your corporate career.
Exactly, exactly. So that was, oh my God, I love that. And then a little while later, my husband asked me to do social media for his business. Well, I
Okay.
was self-taught. First of all, coming out of corporate America, when I was there, social media didn't exist.
Yeah.
And so now I had to learn, self-learn. But
Wow.
once he asked me to do it, I took a certificate course,
Oh, that's
a
great.
year-long certificate course to get certified in social media. And that did it for me because it sealed the fact that whatever I did at this point in my life, I wanted to be creative. So where I thought interior design was like my baby, me being
Yep.
creative, doing the social media, designing the posts and so forth was just another way, another format of being creative.
Mhm. Yeah.
which then led to me doing my blog. And because I wanted to get better at writing, I took
Mhm.
writing classes. That was another game changer because
Wow.
now I'm just another level of being creative.
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, creativity comes in so
Right.
many different forms. And
Mhm.
I have to say that even when it comes to science,
Mhm.
my husband, it works for an aerospace company when he's
Mhm.
not
Mhm.
a podcast producer. And
Right.
I have to say, he is very creative, even in these, endeavors that we don't think are creative. So we need to kind of redefine what that means. But I'm
Right.
so glad that you started to see that creativity was inside you and that you took the writing course. So cool.
And from that point on, I said, whatever I do at this stage of my life, it has to center around being creative. Because
Mm,
they say when you're trying, women, how do I create my second out? As always, do what you love. What do you lose time in? And it's
yeah.
so true. I can sit down and start planning a blog or planning a social media post. And I look up, I'm like, oh my God, because I'm so absorbed in
Yeah.
it and I'm like enjoying it so much, you truly do lose track of time for the things
Yeah.
that you love doing.
Hmm. Yeah. So tell me about this blog and tell me about this endeavor that you have. How long have you been doing it?
So it was interesting how I got to this point. Prior to COVID, I co-hosted the Life 2.0 show with a good friend. And, we were in the studio and we were doing the shows. And at
Hmm.
some point, they weren't sure if they were still going to be able to use the studio and do shows. Then came COVID. So, after we kind of figured we're going to be here a while in
Yeah.
COVID,
We didn't
the
think it was going to be a while at the beginning.
exactly. So the gentleman that I used to do that actually produced the shows, he wanted to do podcasts. So I was going to be his guinea pig to figure out, the best ways to do the
Yeah.
podcast. So during COVID, I started doing podcasts and just interviewing, instead of physically being in the studio interviewing women who had successfully created their
Hmm.
second act, I was doing it via podcast. And
Huh.
then that stopped. And then I kind of died for a while. And I said, but I have this thing that I really want to do about encouraging and supporting and inspiring women that there's so much more to who they are,
Wow.
and understanding that you have transferable skills.
Hmm.
Women used to say, well, I was in corporate or whatever, I did this. And I'm like, okay, but those are transferable skills. So that was like,
Yep.
my passion. There's so much more to you. So then I reached out to, actually, I met a lady who actually helped me to formulate my website. And she says, you know what? Think about doing a lifestyle blog. So I started writing the blogs, but I wanted it
Hmm.
to be a little bit more, as I said, than just hearing women's stories, because I think it's a lifestyle. Our second act is a lifestyle. It's about all the things
Agreed.
we enjoy doing. It's about taking the wisdom and knowledge that we have gained over time, using them and inspiring other women and also teaching other people. So the blog really is now a resource, and I
Yeah.
invite other bloggers to come in and share their expertise.
Love it.
Um, I'm branching out in terms of I'm actually teaching a course over the next week or so. And I'm also my the lady who's been my professor for writing, she's actually talked me into creating a book. So I'm going to be writing a book
Oh,
on my
that's
blogs with
exciting.
activities and lessons to help women to just realize there's so much more to us. We have so much to offer, so much wisdom, knowledge, experience, that our
Mhm.
lives need to reflect that and not just stop after a certain age.
Wow. I'm loving what I'm hearing because I think that this is definitely perhaps the path that others who are listening to us are in, and you are just showing what is possible because sometimes we don't see what's possible for us,
Right.
and we're not really in a place where it's easy for us to envision because we haven't done it. We don't have any
Right.
evidence,
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And for me, because when I was downsized, now we're going back, the Great Recession in the 80s,
Yeah.
there was nothing there. There was
Mm,
nothing there to say, okay, what else?
yeah.
As a matter of fact, my job offered a placement service, and I found myself initially
Hmm.
taking the placement service, but I was doing it to go back into an industry I no longer enjoy. So at one point, my counselor said to me, I said to her, I can't do this. I said, I can't look for another job
Hmm.
in an industry that I'm
Yeah.
no longer happy in.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she was extremely supportive. And that's the other thing that I would just say to women, you know, everyone doesn't have a vision for themselves, unfortunately, or a dream for themselves. And when you get to this point that you know that there's more, you really do have to find a support system or create a support system.
Hmm.
And I say to women, it doesn't have to be a lot of people. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be someone you're very close to. It's just to be someone that you can be your sounding board, that's your
Hmm.
cheerleader. I
Yeah.
would say someone that has a good sense of who you are, because a lot of times, and trust me, there were a lot of times like, what am I doing? I can't do this. And I had a few good friends who said, yes, you can. And you
Yeah.
do need people in your corner to say, yes, you can, keep going.
When my friend Lisa calls those people, she calls them your balcony people, the
Yeah,
people who are
yeah.
in the balcony cheering for you.
Yeah,
And we all need balcony
absolutely.
people. I'm so glad,
Absolutely.
Lisa's my
Absolutely.
balcony people.
Right,
and,
right.
and you have
Absolutely.
that too. And for many women, sometimes we isolate ourselves. We've created these pockets of relationships, but it's okay to not have everybody in your balcony.
Right.
It's a very exclusive club, but it's a must that you can
It-
find them. And this is why
Absolutely.
community at this age is incredibly important. We would have the tendency to feel alone.
Mhm.
And, study shows that that is actually very detrimental to your health and it shortens your lifespan.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as I said, it does not have to be a lot of people. If it's one or two people, that is fine. But you do need that support system. That's key.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so tell me a little bit more about the lifestyle blog, right? Because, you know, this is a resource and you're having other contributors be a
Mhm,
part
mhm,
of the second act
mhm.
inspiration. But what are you hoping that people that take advantage of the resources or read the blog will get out of it?
So for me, the blogs that I write are very personal. I'm sharing my story, the lessons I've
Hmm.
learned. Um, if I'm writing a blog about, for example, how to step out and create your second act, I'm actually telling you in that blog how I did it and all the things I felt, how scary I was. But at the same
Mm,
time, in the end, I'm always reinforcing the fact that it is something that I am truly glad that I found the opportunity or the way to step out of my comfort zone and
mhm.
experience more and want to be more. But at the same time, because it is a lifestyle, there are certain things that I in my life have not experienced. Like, for example, I know you and I, we chatted about your mom is now with you.
Yeah.
Well, that is something that a lot of us at our age. So your experience in terms of now being the daughter, having your mom
Hmm.
at home and taking care of her, that's important.
Hmm.
I'm not a grandmother yet. I don't know if that's going to happen, but
Hmm.
I want women who are grandmothers to share their experience because, again, it's our life. It's our life that we are now at a point of saying we deserve it. We want to enjoy it. We want to connect and be with people that we love and care about. Even if there's someone who has gone through a divorce and has survived that. I want to have that person share the
Yeah.
story because again, there's life after that. How did
Oh,
you get beyond
absolutely.
that? In terms of someone who's lost a loved one, my sister lost her husband several years ago, and
Hmm.
that's hard. That's a long road. So if there's someone who has experience, but now I've learned to become this afterwards, those are the other sources and resources that I want to include in the blogs. So
Yeah.
not just my story, but
No,
everything,
I
yeah.
really like the content that you have within because I think that you're tackling topics, right? So for instance, one of the blogs was the hidden weight of entrepreneurship. And I know that a lot of times we idolize people who are in the entrepreneur world. And yes, a lot of us work hard, but it does weigh on us. There
Right.
is another side of the coin that a lot of people don't realize. We're putting pressure on ourselves. We also, think as women, right? We need to do it
Mhm.
all.
Mhm.
But it's so important to normalize for others that, this is what someone went through and really having that idea. The other one that I saw in there is about losing your spark as couples. And, I have a client who
Yeah.
works with couples
Mhm.
because in midlife, your relationship changes, it
Changes.
evolves. You're
Right.
maybe have children out of the house, maybe you've grown apart. So, how do you reignite?
Mhm.
And, this is not something that it was often talked about by our mothers.
Right.
So
Exactly.
there's nobody who's really modeled that for us. And now we need to model it for ourselves, for each other, so that then we can find a safe space
Mhm.
where we know we're not broken, we're not the only ones, but also we can find our people.
That's it. And that can, and the life's in second act inspiration is a community of women over 50 to inspire, support, and know it's a safe environment for you to be a part of.
Hmm.
One of the other things I realized too is like, second acts are not always about, starting your business, but it's also sometimes about that next level in your career. So I have a
Hmm.
good friend who is a career strategist and she works with women to get them to the next level. So she
Yeah.
does a lot of contributions in terms of her blogs, of writing blogs for me. So I wanted to encompass as much or as many aspects of our lives as possible.
Hmm.
But show that there's still that brighter side
Yeah.
to this life.
Yeah, it's so well curated and so well thought out, and I think that this is one of the things that I admire of you and other of our guests that you you forged a way. In most of us, when we go through something, we forge a way, but
Mhm.
you have also done it in a way that, hey, I'm going through this. Perhaps somebody else needs this,
And
and
trust me,
love that.
I have gone through it. I have, for some women, their second acts are like, great. I have a friend, she just took off with her second act. My second act was not like no. I mean, there were some tough roads there, but
Mhm.
I am in a place in my life that I am truly enjoying this part of my life.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that you're enjoying it because, even for the women who are in their 30s and 40s, our society tends to remind us that our value is going down.
Mhm.
But it doesn't have to be like that. And let's
Absolutely not.
help of each other look forward to next second chapters, third chapters.
Mhm. Mhm.
There is a friend of the show. She's been here as well, and I know her in real life. Andy Lyons.
Mhm.
She has a podcast called Don't Be Caged by Your
Mhm.
Age. And she
Mhm.
has individuals that are in their 70s, 80s
Mhm.
that are redefining what life can be at that age. And
Right.
it's so
Right.
beautiful that then we're creating this ripple effect. They are showing us, we're showing others, the ones that
Mhm.
are coming behind us, and
Mhm.
so on and so forth. And at the bottom, at the end, I have nieces. I have a niece who's 14. Now
Right.
she has a line of women that she realizes, right? That,
Right.
hey, there's resources, there's friends, there's everything included in there.
And even for me, now you're saying you're turning 55. Happy birthday, early happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
But I turned 70 this year, which was
I wouldn't have known
the
it.
end of last year, which was traumatic. But you know what? And for me, I did not have, unfortunately, a lot of the older women in my family, they passed on.
Hmm.
But I wanted to know what women in their 70s, 80s were thinking and feeling. So I had started listening to Julia Louise Dreyfus, Wiser
Oh, yeah,
Than
yeah. I love her.
Yeah, she was interviewing women who, in their 80s and late 70s, and they still had that spark and they still had knowledge and experience to pass on to me.
Hmm.
So while I hopefully am passing some of my knowledge experience on to women younger than myself, I still needed to hear from the wiser women,
Right, right.
to share their knowledge and experience.
I love that. One of the things that I believe that is incredibly worth mentioning
Mhm.
is that there are obstacles that are going to hit all of us. And like you mentioned, your sister lost her husband. How can we continue to create space to lift the other women that maybe don't know where to turn? How do
Right.
we reach them?
Right. So, it's putting yourself, I think, out there in a way
Hmm.
to recognize that, someone may need some encouragement that you have, that you can offer. But at the
Hmm.
same time, it's maybe finding organizations and so forth. Now, recently, I actually joined an organization. I'm now the chapter leader for New Jersey on this, and I'm also on the advisory board for finding women over find female finding female friends over 50.
Hmm.
And it's really interesting because as I get to interact sometimes with some of the chapter members in my area, a lot of them are talk about just loneliness and just
Hmm.
needing friends because their friends have passed or they've moved. So for me, I think it's a great organization to stay in touch with women
Hmm.
um, socially, but at the same time share knowledge and experience. I do have the Second Act Club on that particular site.
Hmm.
So it's just putting ourselves out there and, not just sitting back and say, okay, I've lived my life. That's it. I don't have anything else to give or share because we do.
Mm.
And it's just finding ways, be it in the community or associations, to put yourself out there.
Mm. I love that you continue to put yourself in places where you give to others. Why do you think a lot of women tend to be afraid of doing and putting themselves out there and creating a second chapter for themselves?
Fear. Fear is big. They don't know. What if I fail? Um, I don't know what other people might say or think. And I think that's one of the coolest parts about being at a certain age, because you don't really give a darn anymore.
You know what I've started doing, and it's silly. Julie 10 years ago would have never, and Julie 20 years ago, oh, forget it. Julie 25, never. But I went out to dinner with my mom yesterday, and I realized, like, wait a minute, I didn't even put any lipstick on. And it's like, I don't care, whatever. Who am I
It's
trying to impress today?
because you know what, we have so much, we have a stronger sense of ourselves, and
Hmm.
unfortunately even women in our age group and beyond, they don't. But I think
Yeah.
as long as they see other women, they see role models. I would love to see, in whether movies or TV shows where women of our of my age or even younger are still putting themselves out and showing all of their talents, their feistiness,
Oh,
and
for
everything else.
sure.
We just have to like step out of our comfort zone and
Hmm.
understand that in the process of stepping out of our comfort zone, we are just opening up a world of opportunities and possibilities. And you know what? If
Mm.
you fail, you fail, because trust me, I
Yeah,
have failed.
I know.
But at the same time, I'm like, okay, what lesson, did I learn from this? And sometimes
Hmm.
it's like, okay, well, this is not the direction you should be going. Figure out
Yeah.
another direction to go in. Just do
Yeah.
it. My
So,
one of my
so
favorite
true.
quotes is Joyce Meyer's, um, "Do it afraid."
Oh,
And
do it
that,
afraid.
yeah, I used to tell myself in the very beginning, just do it afraid.
Mm. Yeah, those mantras are super helpful. One of my mantras is you'll figure it out. Just do it. Just you'll figure it out. Whatever. It's gonna come to pass. You're a smart girl. And
There you
sometimes
go.
we have to hype ourselves up for this.
Exactly, exactly. Because,
Yeah.
sometimes, someone we're the only ones around us, to really do it. But I think the more you put yourself out there, you expose yourself,
Mhm.
that's where confidence comes.
Yeah, absolutely. Has confidence always been a part of your life?
Um, you know what? I would say the younger me, the very younger me, maybe in my 20s,
Hmm.
absolutely not.
Yeah.
I just think because in my life, I've gone through things and experienced things that I survived them.
Hmm.
And so in the process of surviving,
Yep.
I've developed confidence. For me, I have to say my 50s were my best years.
Love hearing
My
that. What
best
made
years.
them your best years? Because you
Oh,
started this
because
endeavor?
because no, because I had just such a sense of who I was, and I no
Love it.
longer cared so much of what other people thought. I knew who
Yeah.
I was. And so because of that, I just, I was just feisty and fierce, and I didn't take a lot, a lot of stuff. But I found when I went into my 70s, I'm sorry, my 60s, the 60s brought out the side of me that said, okay, it's now time for you
Hmm.
to inspire others. So for
Interesting.
me, I actually, when I started the Life 2.0 community, which was initially just doing workshops and so forth out in the community, that happened
Yep.
in my early 60s. When I was started the co-hosting the Life 2.0 show, I was probably about mid 60s and so forth. Towards the end of my 60s is when I started developing and getting
Hmm.
developing and putting together the Life 2.0 second act inspiration. So in my 60s was that period in my life where I said, okay, I need to help. I need to give back. But 50s, oh, forget it.
How
I was
fun.
like feeling myself.
Um, if you had to look back in your career, your journey as a woman, what have been some of the most meaningful moments that
Mm,
led you to have what it took to be here today?
wow, that's the tough one. I would say meaningful would be um, definitely my parents, how I was raised, because
Yeah.
we were my sister and I, we were we were raised to be very strong, independent women.
Mm,
We had values that today I truly understand some of those life lessons and things that they taught us that, my thing right now is use your common sense because that is something
that's
my
losing
mother,
steam out
oh,
there, by the
I'm
way.
telling my mother would drill and use your common sense.
Yeah.
And there were certain things that were values and morals that we were raised on that, okay, you don't compromise that. This is who you
Mhm.
are. Um, but at the same, so I would have to say, first and foremost, was family, love, and support from family, love and support from my husband.
Mm,
And then friends, good friends, women
yeah.
that I call sister friends,
Mm,
as opposed to just regular my friends who are females, my sister friends, because they were there in different times of my life that said, okay, stand up, you can keep going, or I'm here, you need a shoulder to cry on. So
mhm.
the experience of all of that, you know what I'm saying? And then at the same time, I would also say being at the time in an environment in the pharmaceutical industry where when I first started, there weren't a lot of women, and they
Yep.
definitely weren't a lot of women, a minority women, and
No,
just
not at all.
surviving that whole thing and standing up and say, I belong here, I deserve to be here, I'm
Mm.
qualified to be here. That all played part into making me who I guess I am today.
Amazing, amazing. One of the biggest things that I've learned, and that I ran away from, Jacqueline,
Mhm,
oh, fervently ran away
mhm.
from, were mistakes. And that perfectionism in
Oh,
me
mhm,
really was so apparent in
mhm,
my teens,
mhm,
20s, 30s, and into my 40s. And then all of a sudden, I realized that these mistakes were so crucial
mhm,
to learning, so crucial to doing it right. I
mhm,
actually just heard a story about a study that this I guess professor
mhm,
had broke the classroom into two packs.
mhm,
One group of students were told that they were going to spend the entire duration of the class,
mhm,
6 months or whatever it was, a semester, creating one beautiful, excellent, well crafted vase,
mhm,
while the other half were told not to create the perfect vase, but we're told to create during the duration,
mhm,
a
mhm,
semester,
mhm.
whatever, as many vases as possible. And at the end, who do you think had the better created vases? The ones who were going for the perfect vase and spend the whole time doing it,
Mhm.
or the ones who were creating a whole bunch and,
Right, right,
reiterating?
right, right, right,
Yeah. I was surprised to find that it was the second. And that's really what I've learned about mistakes, that we got to do it. We got to keep going.
mhm,
And sometimes we sit on the sidelines waiting for the things to align and to be perfect. And, for, I don't know, for the blessing of the gods to appear, whatever it might be.
right, right,
Right.
right,
But
right,
if we do it, let's fail. And then we're learning how to not do it. We're figuring it out as we go along. And that's something that is definitely missing
right,
for a lot
right,
of us women.
right, right. Just to know that nothing is really perfect, and so if it's not perfect, and you come close to being what makes you happy or
Hmm.
what gives you enjoyment or pleasure, then that's important. That's what's important. It's not
Yeah.
being, the perfect person that you see on TV or the perfect person society expects you to be. Forget all of that. Those were things that over
Hmm.
time I learned, oh, hey, forget that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. What
Yeah.
what mistakes have been the best mistakes that you've made, or the ones that were the ones that taught you what you needed to learn the most?
Okay, so I don't know if it was a mistake in a sense, but
Mhm.
it is something that when I was at going through all of this, especially I was downsized and trying to find my way, and then I was started doing things that were totally out of my comfort zone and I wasn't
Mhm.
sure about. There was an experience that I had actually at work. I had decided to take a different position. And this particular position was like doing sales within the hospital environment.
Okay.
And we had this one product, brand new product. And when it was first launched, I was on maternity leave. So I hadn't gone through all the learning and so forth that would typically be required. A
Hmm.
lot of it I had to do self-learn and so forth. So when I stepped out into that hospital environment to serve, to sell that product, I was so scared. I would not really
Mm.
talk a lot about it. The
Yeah.
worst part was like, this is like one of my major products. And I remember having another friend and I said, oh, I don't know what we're talking about. This is terrible. But in the course of that, somehow I became one of the top salespeople for that product.
Wow.
And it was funny because one of my managers that I had, he said, I remember when you were the worst person talking about this product, and look at you now. So when
Wow.
I stepped out and I was on my own doing and trying to not fail, but finding
Hmm.
lessons in failure, that was a reminder. Remember when you were the worst person?
Remember when we were the worst person? I love that.
And then when you became one of the top people in the country selling that.
Yeah. Wow.
So lesson learned, like,
Lesson learned. And,
okay,
and it's a good lesson for us to pay attention to, right? Because we
right,
don't have to all learn the same lessons. We can just
right, right,
learn from the lessons that you
right,
learn.
right. So that has always been, okay, if I sold that product and became one of the best, I mean, I can do this.
Yeah. Listen, that competency in one thing
Yeah,
gives us the confidence, and the
yeah,
confidence can be transferred from one thing to another, right?
absolutely, absolutely.
So amazing. Tell me a little bit about where you see yourself going with the site with inspired resources.
Mhm,
What are
mhm.
your goals? What are you thinking?
So for me right now, I definitely want to expand the resources,
Hmm.
and bring in the knowledge of so many women, including yourself. You and I talked about that,
Yes.
to share, um, your experience, your knowledge on areas that are important to us.
Hmm.
Many of us, we're that sandwich generation. Many of
Yeah.
us are empty nesters. Many of us, we've lost, our spouses or so forth. And I want that part. I want the resources to come
Hmm.
to
Yeah.
share that experience and let people know, in a sense, this too will can pass, and that there is still a sense of you,
Yeah.
and you've not lost yourself in whatever you're going through.
Hmm.
I really want to do this book. It's like, me kind of putting a lot of my lessons and experience and so forth into this book, and then giving activities, to help women to overcome certain things, or to brainstorm about certain ideas of themselves and
Yeah.
what they can do in this next act.
So
So
good.
right now, I think it's the book
Hmm.
and getting as many women to contribute to help support and inspire all of us collectively.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm super excited for that, and I think that the work that you're doing is what we need. It's what was missing for so many individuals. And, I look back at, I often talk about in the podcast, my mom, when she turned
Mhm,
50,
mhm,
what, and she was laid off back then, and how
mhm,
it was a defeated time for her. And this is the type of resource that would have given her wings
mhm.
at that age, rather than feeling that she was lost or unsupported or unable to, because she was old, and
Right,
it
right.
would have
I
helped her
understand.
redefine. So I'm grateful to you, and so happy that this is a space that you've created for so many others. Where can people find you, Jacqueline? How do people get in touch with you if they're
So
excited to read the blog or participate or collaborate or get
it,
your wonderful presence in their life? How do they do that?
the website is secondactinspiration.com. And there's a section where I invite women to join the community by signing up for the newsletter. It's a free
Hmm.
newsletter. But in that newsletter, I share upcoming blogs, I share resources. There are a lot of free resources that I have available. So once you sign up for the newsletter, you automatically get access to those free resources. Then on the contact page, if there's anyone who wants to share their story, I invite you to please reach out to me directly on the contact page, and we'll set up a time to chat. Um, but it's there for us. I
Hmm.
want this to be a site for women just to come to and be supported and know that you're not in whatever you're feeling by yourself.
Hmm.
There's so much more. Like I said, I'm 70 and I'm still kicking.
Listen, I want to be you at 70, because you're doing great. And you've got so much life in you, so much ability to inspire and continue to show us that, we too can come after you. Your story has become our life raft.
Oh, well, I thank you for that. I just, if anyone can learn from whatever I've learned over the last few years, I am pleased. I am pleased.
Amazing. Well, Jacqueline, I'm so grateful again. And your presence in my life is a gift. I'm excited to continue to collaborate with you,
Thank you.
support you, and lift up your community because my community and your community are incredibly aligned.
Right,
My
right.
friends, if you're listening to the show, I want to tell you, don't wait. Go find Jacqueline. Make sure that you go to the website. The website is secondactinspiration.com. And you also connect with her on social media. Jacqueline is on Instagram and also
Right.
Facebook, I believe, but
Facebook
Instagram is
and
Second Act Inspiration.
Mhm.
So here's to being each other's balcony people,
Right,
just like
right.
Lisa Pulliam likes to say. So thank you so much,
Thank
Jacqueline, and my
you. Thank
friends.
you so
Go
much for the
confidently
opportunity.
in the
Yeah.
direction of your dreams, everyone.
Thank you
Bye.
so much.